The twin suns of Verita rose over the endless sands, painting the desert in shades of gold and orange. Kieran, a young explorer with a sharp mind and brave heart, adjusted his goggles and scanned the horizon. He had spent months searching the ruins scattered across this harsh planet, hoping to uncover lost knowledge from a civilization long gone. Today, something about the ruins felt different. There was a quiet energy in the air, as if the desert itself was waiting to reveal a secret. Kieran stepped carefully over broken pillars and shattered statues. The wind whispered past him, carrying faint echoes of a time long before humans had ever reached Verita. He spotted a small stone structure partly buried in the sand. Its entrance was almost hidden, but Kieran noticed strange markings on the doorway. His pulse quickened. These symbols were not just decorations. They were a map or a clue. Inside the temple, the air was cool and still. Kieran's light revealed walls covered with carvings of people wearing strange crowns and standing before massive stars. At the center of the room lay a stone pedestal, broken and covered in dust. On it, partially hidden under a slab, was an ancient scroll. Kieran's hands trembled slightly as he lifted it. The paper was brittle, but the writing was clear. It told the story of a powerful artifact called the Forgotten Crown of Blood, said to hold incredible energy capable of uniting worlds or destroying them. Kieran read aloud softly, imagining the crown glowing with red light, pulsing like a living heartbeat. Legends said the crown had chosen its bearer and tested their heart, rewarding those with courage and wisdom while punishing greed and cruelty. Many explorers had tried to find it before, but none had succeeded. Most had disappeared without a trace. "I need help," Kieran said to himself. He could not do this alone. The crown's power was too great, and the journey would be dangerous. He thought of his friends who had skills that matched the challenge. First, Mila, a clever engineer with a talent for solving puzzles and building machines from nothing. She had a sharp mind and steady hands, and Kieran knew she would understand the significance of this discovery. Then, there was Rowan, a skilled pilot with nerves of steel. Rowan could navigate through the deadliest storms and keep them safe when danger was near. Kieran left the ruins quickly, careful not to disturb anything else. The desert sun beat down on him as he rode his small hoverbike toward the city. His mind raced with questions. Could the crown still exist after thousands of years? Could they find it before someone with darker intentions did? The possibilities both thrilled and frightened him. In the city of Solara, Kieran found Mila working on a mechanical device in her small workshop. Sparks flew as she soldered a piece of metal, and her eyes lit up when she saw Kieran. "I think I've found something." "Incredible," Kieran said, holding up the scroll. Mila's hands froze in surprise as she took the fragile paper. "The Forgotten Crown of Blood?" she whispered. Her voice was full of wonder. "I thought it was just a story. If this map is real, we could be the first to find it in centuries." Kieran nodded. "We can't do it alone. We need Rowan too. If the crown is as powerful as the scroll says, we'll face dangers we cannot even imagine." Mila smiled, a mix of excitement and determination. "Then let's prepare. I'll gather supplies, tools, and some protective gear. We'll need everything if we want to survive." They found Rowan at the spaceport, polishing his small starship. His dark eyes lit up when he saw Corinne and Mila approach. "You found what?" Rowan asked, leaning against the ship. Kieran handed him the scroll, and Rowan read it quickly, his jaw tightening. "The crown," he said finally, his voice low but firm. "If this is real, we're about to go on the adventure of a lifetime. And it won't be easy. Others will want it too. Whoever gets it first could change the fate of the galaxy." The three friends spent the evening planning their route. Kieran traced the paths on the scroll, while Mila checked their equipment and Rohan calculated the fastest and safest jumps between planets. Each decision was important. They had to stay ahead of anyone who might follow them, but they also had to be careful not to fall into traps left by the crown's ancient guardians as night fell. Kieran looked at the stars shining above Solara. He felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility. The crown's power was tempting, but they had to be careful. It could bring great good or terrible destruction. The journey ahead would test everything they knew about courage, loyalty, and wisdom. For now, the adventure had begun, and the forgotten crown of blood was no longer just a legend. It was a challenge waiting for those brave enough to face it. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan were ready to take the first step into the unknown. The small starship glided silently through the dark void of space. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan stared at the holographic map flickering between them. The map showed the route to the first planet marked on the ancient scroll. It was a jagged world, called Tarnis, full of mountains and stormy skies, where the first clue to the crown's location was said to be hidden. Rowan adjusted the ship's thrusters, keeping the vessel steady. "The path through Tarnis will be rough," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Storms there can tear ships apart in seconds." Mela checked their supplies one last time. "We need to make sure our shields and engines are ready. The storms are bad enough, but if anyone follows us, it could be deadly." Kieran nodded, gripping the armrest of his chair. "We can't wait. The scroll warns that others seek the crown. We must reach Tarnis first." As the ship entered Tarnis orbit, the sky roared with dark clouds and lightning. The mountains below looked like jagged teeth, and the winds whipped across the planet's surface in terrifying gusts. Rowan skillfully guided the ship through the storm, dodging lightning strikes and violent wind currents. The team felt the ship shake with every turbulence, but they trusted Rowan's steady hands. Finally, they landed on a small plateau surrounded by cliffs. The ground was wet and slippery, and the wind howled like a wild creature. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan stepped out carefully, their boots sinking slightly into the soft soil. The map pointed toward a deep canyon where the first marker of the crown's path was hidden as they approached the canyon. Kieran noticed strange footprints on the mud large, human-like, but heavier. "Someone has been here recently," he said, pointing at the prints. "We're not the only ones searching for the crown." Mila frowned, scanning the area. "We need to move quickly. Whoever is following us may be close. We don't know if they are friendly." Rowan adjusted his scanner to detect energy signatures. The screen beeped softly. "They're here." Small ships hiding above the canyon. Kieran's heart raced. "Then we have to act smart. The crown doesn't want to be taken by force. We need to stay one step ahead." The canyon stretched before them, dark and twisting. They carefully climbed down the jagged rocks, following the map's instructions. Strange carvings lined the canyon walls, glowing faintly in the dim light. They were symbols of guardians who had protected the crown for centuries. Kieran felt a mix of awe and fear. These carvings were a warning. The crown's journey was not easy. Suddenly, a shadow moved above them. Kieran looked up just in time to see a small scout ship hover and scan the canyon. "They found us," Rowan shouted. "We need to move before they attack." The team ran deeper into the canyon, using their knowledge of the terrain to hide and dodge. Mila activated a small device that created a holographic decoy of their ship, confusing the scouts above. Lightning struck near the canyon walls, illuminating the scene with blinding light. The pursuers fired a few warning shots, but the decoy worked perfectly. The scouts believed it was the real ship, giving the team a chance to escape. After hours of navigating twisting paths and avoiding traps, Kieran found a small, hidden chamber at the bottom of the canyon. Inside, an ancient stone tablet lay on a pedestal. The tablet had inscriptions that glowed red, showing the next steps in the crown's path. Kieran's fingers trembled as he touched it, feeling a faint pulse of energy run through him. "This is it," Kieran said, excitement mixed with caution. "The first clue is ours." Mela examined the tablet carefully. "It shows a pattern, almost like a puzzle. We need to solve it to know the next location. If we fail, the path could become dangerous." Rowan looked toward the canyon entrance, his eyes sharp. "And I'm sure our pursuers won't give up easily. They'll be back, stronger and faster." Kieran nodded. "Then we must prepare. The crown is powerful, but so is the determination of those who seek it for themselves. We have courage, wisdom, and teamwork. That is what will guide us." The team spent the night in the hidden chamber, studying the tablet and planning their next move. Outside, the storms raged on, and shadows of the enemy fleet hovered silently above the canyon. The galaxy seemed vast and dangerous, but Kieran, Mila, and Rowan knew they could face it together. Before dawn, they climbed out of the canyon, ready to continue their journey. The adventure had grown even more dangerous, but the thrill of the unknown pushed them forward. Every step brought them closer to the forgotten crown of blood, and every challenge tested their courage and loyalty. Kieran looked at the rising sun over Tarnus' jagged mountains. "We are ready," he said. "No matter what comes, we will find the crown first, and we will do it the right way." With determination in their hearts, the team stepped toward the next stage of their journey, unaware that the shadows following them were growing stronger and closer with every passing moment. The small starship rose above Tarnus, leaving the stormy mountains behind. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan studied the glowing tablet they had found in the canyon. Its symbols were strange, but Mila's sharp mind began to decipher them. "The crown is more than just an artifact," she said. "It has a purpose. It was created to unite worlds, but it could also destroy them if it falls into the wrong hands." Kieran felt a chill run through him. "So it chooses its owner? That means we have to be careful. It will not be taken by force." Rowan leaned back in his chair, scanning the stars. "We already know someone is following us. Commander Vex and his fleet will do anything to get the crown. They do not care about warnings or rules. We have to move fast." The next planet on their route was Phyra, a frozen world covered with icy plains and jagged glaciers. It was said that an ancient library, holding the history of the crown, lay hidden beneath the ice. Landing was dangerous, but Rowan guided the ship carefully, dodging ice storms and frozen winds that could crush a smaller vessel. Once on the surface, the team pulled their heavy coats tight and trudged across the frozen plains. The wind cut at their faces, but Kieran's determination kept him moving forward. Mala's scanner picked up a faint energy signature below the ice. "The library is buried beneath that glacier," she said, pointing to a massive ice wall ahead. They carefully drilled into the ice, uncovering a hidden entrance. Inside, the air was cold but still, and shelves of frozen books and tablets stretched into darkness. Ancient machines hummed faintly, maintaining the preservation of the knowledge within. Kieran ran his hand over a tablet, feeling the faint pulse of power beneath its surface. The crown's story began to reveal itself. The records told of civilization, far older than humans, who had created the crown to unite the stars. They had used it wisely, bringing peace to many worlds. But greed and desire for control had led to disaster. Those who tried to claim the crown without pure intentions had vanished or been consumed by its energy. The crown's power reacted to the heart of the one who sought it. Mila studied the symbols carefully. It chooses based on courage, loyalty, and wisdom. Anyone who is selfish or greedy cannot control it. That explains why so many disappeared. The crown is alive in a way. It can judge character. Kieran nodded. That also means we have to be honest with ourselves. We cannot let ambition or fear guide our choices. Suddenly, Rowan's scanner beeped urgently. "We have company. Small attack ships are entering Phyra's orbit." They must have tracked us from Tarnus. Kieran clenched his fists. Then we need to move quickly. Take only what we need from this library. We cannot afford a battle here. Mila grabbed the most important tablets, carefully storing them in protective cases. Rowan led the way to the ship, watching the skies. Commander Vex's fleet appeared, dark and menacing, circling the planet like vultures. The team climbed into their ship, and Rowan prepared for an escape. We'll have to use the glaciers to hide. The Crown's path is dangerous, but we can use the terrain to our advantage. As they flew over the icy landscape, the enemy fired a few warning shots. Mila activated a holographic decoy, and the enemy ships were briefly confused. Rowan skillfully maneuvered the ship through narrow ice canyons, dodging attacks and using sudden turns to stay ahead. Kieran's heart pounded with every near miss, but he trusted Rowan's skill. After a tense chase, they reached a hidden cave system marked on the tablet. The energy of the Crown seemed stronger here. Kieran stepped out of the ship, feeling a strange warmth despite the cold. It was as if the Crown itself was calling them closer, testing their intentions. "We are close," Kieran whispered. "I can feel it. The Crown wants to know if we are worthy." Mila looked at him, eyes wide with understanding. "We must stay true. The Crown will sense fear or doubt. It will not be controlled by force or trickery." Rowan placed a hand on Kieran's shoulder. "We are a team. Courage, loyalty, and wisdom. That's what brought us here, and that is what will keep us alive." As they prepared to explore the cave, the shadows of Commander Vex's ships disappeared. Above, leaving them with a quiet moment of focus. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan knew the journey was just beginning. The Crown's secrets were powerful, but they were ready to face them. The cave's entrance glowed faintly, as if welcoming the explorers. Kieran stepped forward, determined and calm. This was the moment to learn the truth of the Forgotten Crown, of blood, to understand its purpose, and to prepare for the challenges that lay ahead. The Crown had begun to reveal its secrets, and the team knew that the greatest tests were still waiting. The entrance to the glowing cave on Farah pulsed faint red light as Kieran, Mila, and Rowan stepped inside. The air was cold, yet carried a strange warmth that seemed to reach into their hearts. Strange symbols covered the walls, moving faintly as if alive. Kieran's pulse quickened. He realized the cave was more than a shelter or a hiding place. It was a test designed to challenge those who sought the Forgotten Crown of Blood. The first trial appeared before them. A shimmering doorway formed in the middle of the cave. When Kieran stepped toward it, the floor gave way to illusions. He saw terrifying images of himself failing, losing his friends, and falling into traps. Fear gripped him tightly. He could hear a voice whispering doubts in his mind, telling him he was not strong enough, not clever enough to find the crown. Kieran froze, but took a deep breath. He remembered Mila and Rowan beside him, trusting him. "I must believe in myself. And in us," he said quietly. As he accepted his fears instead of fighting them, the illusions disappeared, and the doorway solidified. The first trial was passed. Next, Mila faced her challenge. The wall shifted, forming a puzzle of glowing blocks floating in the air. She needed to align them correctly to unlock the next path. Each wrong move caused the blocks to explode harmlessly, but set the puzzle back. Mila focused, using her sharp mind to observe the patterns, noticing subtle hints in the glow of the blocks. After a long moment, she aligned them perfectly. The room vibrated softly, and a new path opened. Rowan's trial came last. He was shown visions of his friends in danger, trapped and unable to be saved. Panic rose in his chest. He wanted to act immediately, but the vision tested his patience. He had to trust in his choices and in the support of his friends, even when it seemed impossible. Taking a deep breath, Rowan waited, analyzing the illusions and planning his moves. Slowly, the visions faded, and the next chamber revealed itself. When all three regrouped, the cave formed a central chamber, glowing with red and gold light. In the center was a pedestal, empty but radiating energy. The crown itself was not yet visible, but Kieran felt it close, as if waiting for them to prove their hearts were worthy. Mila examined the walls and noticed inscriptions forming words. It says the trials are not only about courage or intelligence. The crown tests loyalty and compassion too. We must trust each other completely to proceed. Kieran nodded. Then we face the next stage together. Nothing can divide us. Suddenly, a shadow passed across the chamber entrance. Kieran and Rowan drew small energy devices for defense, and Mila prepared protective shields. Commander Vex had arrived. His dark ship hovered outside the cave, and his fleet circled above, scanning for the team. Vex's voice echoed through the chamber, amplified by the cave walls. "Give me the crown, and no harm will come to you." Kieran stepped forward, firm and calm. "We do not seek to use the crown for power or greed. It is not yours to take." Vex's anger flared, but the cave reacted to his malice. The walls trembled, and red light shot up from the floor. The crown's energy rejected his presence, forcing him back. Kieran realized then that the crown could sense intentions and protect itself. Rowan smiled slightly. "We knew greed could not control it. The crown is testing him as well." The team carefully moved toward the pedestal. Kieran held Mila's hand for support, and Rowan covered their path. As they approached, the cave shifted again, forming a bridge over a glowing chasm. The bridge tested their balance and trust. One misstep could send them falling into the glowing depths. Kieran led the way, feeling the energy of the crown guiding him. Mila and Rowan followed, trusting each other completely. Every step required focus and unity. At the end of the bridge, the pedestal glowed brighter, and the crown appeared, hovering above it like a living flame. The light filled the chamber, revealing the true power of the forgotten crown of blood. It was beautiful and dangerous, pulsing with energy that seemed to communicate with their hearts. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan felt its presence inside them, testing their courage, loyalty, and wisdom one last time. They did not reach for it immediately. Instead, they stood together, ready to face whatever final challenge the crown would send. The trials had prepared them not just for danger, but for the responsibility of choosing wisely. Outside, the shadow of Vex's fleet waited, unaware that the crown could not be taken by force. Inside, the team felt stronger, united, and ready to continue the journey. The forgotten crown of blood had begun to reveal its secrets, showing that only those with pure hearts and strong minds could truly approach its power. The trials were over, but the adventure was only beginning. The next steps would take them to worlds even more dangerous, where the crown's energy and their courage would be tested like never before. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan stepped forward together, ready to face whatever lay ahead, guided by the lessons of the trials and the strength of their friendship. The cave's red and gold light pulsed steadily as Kieran, Mila, and Rowan approached the pedestal. The forgotten crown of blood hovered above it, glowing like a heartbeat. Its energy radiated warmth and power, filling the chamber with a strange Kieran felt it calling to him, testing his heart and intentions. He stepped forward slowly, feeling a mixture of awe and caution. Mila glanced at him, her eyes wide. "It is more than we imagined. Look at the light, it seems alive." Rowan nodded, scanning the area carefully. "And dangerous. We have to stay focused. One wrong move and it could be over." Kieran reached out his hand, but the crown did not move closer. Instead, it hovered silently, as if studying him. He remembered the lessons of the trials. The crown responded only to those with courage, wisdom, and loyalty. He took a deep breath, steadying his thoughts. "We do not seek to control it. We only wish to protect it," he said softly. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the cave entrance. The team spun around as Commander Vex and his small army entered. His dark armor reflected the crown's glow, making him look even more threatening. "Step aside, Kieran," Vex said, his voice firm. "The crown belongs to me." Kieran stood his ground. "No, the crown is not yours. It cannot be claimed by force or greed." Vex raised his energy staff, sending a pulse toward the pedestal. The crown reacted immediately. Waves of red light shot out, forcing Vex back. His men were thrown off balance, and the cave trembled with the crown's power. Kieran realized that the crown could sense intentions and protect itself from those who were unworthy. Mila whispered, "It's defending itself. Only someone pure of heart can approach it." Rowan held his weapon, ready to defend his friends, but Kieran shook his head. "We do not fight to take it. We only protect each other." Vex's anger grew, but the crown's energy kept him from advancing. His attempts to force it closer failed again and again. The light of the crown pulsed faster, as if reacting to the team's unity and courage. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan realized the truth. The crown could only be approached with honesty and teamwork. Kieran stepped forward again, this time together with Mila and Rowan. They all placed a hand near the pedestal, feeling the energy flow around them. The crown hovered just above their hands, pulsating with a gentle warmth. It was as if it recognized their intentions and accepted their hearts. Mila's eyes glowed with wonder. "It responds to us. We are connected to it, but not through force. It tests us, but it also trusts us." Rowan nodded. "And Vex cannot touch it because he is guided by greed. The crown sees through everything." Vex screamed in frustration, pounding his staff on the ground. The cave shuddered violently, sending rocks and debris falling. Kieran realized that the crown's energy was too strong for Vex to control, but the cave itself was beginning to collapse. "We need to act now," he shouted. Mila quickly scanned the pedestal and the surrounding chamber. "The crown's energy is tied to this place. If we do not leave soon, it will collapse with us inside." Rowan grabbed Kieran's arm. "We have to trust our plan. We cannot take the crown by force, but we can protect it and escape." Kieran nodded. He looked at the crown one last time. "We do not take it, we respect it. That is the only way it can survive." Together, the team moved toward the exit, careful not to disturb the pedestal. The crown remained hovering, glowing brighter as if acknowledging their respect. Outside, the storm above Ferris glaciers raged, but their ship waited, ready for escape. As they climbed aboard, the cave began to crumble behind them. Rocks fell and dust filled the air, but the crown's energy seemed to protect the team, guiding them safely toward their ship. Rowan powered the engines, and the starship lifted off just as the entrance collapsed entirely. Mila exhaled deeply. "We did it. We faced it and survived." Kieran looked at the space ahead, stars shining brightly. "The crown is not ours to take, but we have proven that we are worthy of approaching it. That is enough for now." Rowan smiled, his usual calm. "Returning, and we still have more to discover. This journey is far from over. The crown's path continues, and so does our mission." The team set a new course, leaving Farah behind. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan had seen the crown's true power, learned its lessons, and survived its trials. But they also knew that Commander Vex would not give up. The chase would continue, and the dangers ahead would grow even greater. Still, the team felt a growing confidence. They had faced fear, deception, and temptation. They had worked together and passed the crown's first true test. Kieran realized that the forgotten crown of blood was not just a powerful artifact. It was a measure of humanity itself, courage, loyalty, and wisdom. As the ship soared through space, Kieran, Mila, and Rowan shared a silent understanding. Their journey was far from over, but together they could face anything. The crown had revealed itself, and the true adventure was only beginning. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, and the team felt the pulse of the crown guiding them toward their next challenge. They were ready. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan flew their starship through the calm darkness of space, leaving Farah's icy world behind. The crown's energy seemed to follow them, faintly pulsing through the maps and tablets they had collected. They knew the next step of the journey would take them to Ardina, a planet of ancient forests and hidden temples. It was said the final resting place of the crown's power awaited there, and only a heart of pure intention could approach it safely. As the planet came into view, the team felt both excitement and worry. Ardina's forests stretched endlessly, dense and green, hiding ancient secrets beneath their canopy. Kieran guided the ship toward a clearing marked on the map, while Rowan prepared to land carefully among the tall trees. Once on the ground, the team followed a path through the forest, the tablets guiding them step by step. The air was warm, and the forest was alive with sounds of strange animals and rustling leaves. The deeper they went, the more they felt the crown's energy guiding them forward. Suddenly, a dark shape appeared between the trees. Commander Vex had arrived again, flanked by his forces. His fleet hovered above, scanning the forest for the explorers. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan stopped and observed. Vex's face was filled with determination and anger. He would not give up. "We cannot let him take the crown," Kieran whispered. "But we cannot fight for it either. Force will not work. We have to be smarter." Mala nodded. "The crown tests intentions. If we try to seize it from him, we may fail too. We need to act with wisdom." Rowan adjusted his scanner, watching Vex carefully. "We must be ready to protect ourselves, but our goal is the crown, not a battle. He will learn the hard way." The team continued forward, keeping low and using the trees as cover. They arrived at an ancient temple, half covered in vines and roots. At its center, a glowing pedestal awaited. The crown hovered above it, brighter than before, pulsing like a living heart. Its energy radiated both warmth and warning. Kieran stepped forward, feeling the crown's presence more strongly than ever. "This is it," he said. "The final choice. We must decide carefully." The forest trembled as Vex's forces approached. He raised his staff, trying to claim the crown by force. The crown's energy flared, throwing Vex and his men backward. The red light surrounded the temple, and the ground shook. It was clear. Greed could not touch the crown. Kieran realized what he had to do. He turned to Mila and Rowan. "We cannot take it. The crown cannot be controlled by anyone. If we try to hold it, we risk everything. We must release its energy safely." Mila and Rowan understood immediately. Together, they activated a device Mila had designed, connecting it to the pedestal. The crown's energy flowed into the device, dispersing safely into the planet's core. A brilliant light filled the temple, illuminating the forests and mountains around them. The crown's pulse slowed, and its glow softened, as if acknowledging their wisdom. Vex screamed in anger and frustration, but he could not reach the crown. His greed had failed him, and he retreated, leaving the explorers unharmed. The temple trembled one last time, then settled. The crown was gone, its power safely released, but its lessons remained clear. Kieran, Mila, and Rowan stood together, feeling a mix of relief and pride. They had faced the crown's ultimate challenge, resisting temptation and choosing the right path, even when it was the hardest decision. Rowan smiled. "We did it. The crown is no longer a danger, and we survived." Mila nodded, looking at Kieran. "We proved ourselves worthy. The crown trusted us, not with power, but with wisdom." Kieran looked at the forest canopy above, sunlight breaking through the leaves. The crown taught us that true strength is not in possession or control, but in courage, loyalty, and wisdom. That is humanity's greatest power. As they returned to their starship, the forest seemed alive with energy, glowing faintly where the crown's power had been released. The team felt a deep connection to the galaxy, understanding that their actions had protected countless worlds. They had faced fear, greed, and temptation, and emerged stronger, wiser, and united. The journey back to Verita would be quiet compared to the challenges they had faced. Kieran, Mela, and Rowan shared a silent bond, knowing that together they could overcome anything. The crown had vanished, but its lessons remained. Power alone could not guide the galaxy. Only courage, loyalty, and wisdom could shape the future. As the ship lifted off, the team gazed at the stars. Kieran thought about the many worlds they had seen, the dangers they had faced, and the friends they had protected. The crown had tested them, but it had also shown them the truth. Humanity's strength lies not in objects or power, but in the heart and mind. Mala leaned back, smiling. We may not have the crown, but we have something far more important. Each other, and the knowledge that we can face anything. Rowan nodded. And that knowledge will guide us through whatever comes next. The galaxy is full of challenges, but we are ready. Kieran watched the stars passing by, feeling hope and determination. The forgotten crown of blood had been a test, but they had passed. Humanity's courage, loyalty, and wisdom had triumphed over greed and fear. And now, the future was theirs to protect and shape. The journey was not over, but the ultimate choice had been made. The crown's power was no longer a threat, and the explorers had proven that humanity itself was stronger than any artifact or challenge. The starship sailed through the quiet of space as Kiran, Mila, and Ryan began their journey home to Verita. The mission had changed them. They had faced storms, puzzles, illusions, and the greed of Commander Vex. They had seen the forgotten crown of blood and learned its lessons. Now, they carried more than maps and tablets. They carried knowledge, courage, and a deep understanding of what truly mattered. Kieran sat quietly in the cockpit, watching stars glide past. He thought about the crown's power, about how it had chosen to test them and not others. It had tested hearts, intentions, and teamwork. Most importantly, it had shown that humanity's greatest strength was not in artifacts or weapons, but in courage, wisdom, and loyalty. Mila adjusted the ship's controls and looked at Kieran. We did what we had to do. We protected the crown's legacy, not for ourselves, but for everyone. That is the real victory. Rowan smiled. And we did it together. That is what the crown respected, the unity of purpose and trust between friends. That is more powerful than any object. As they neared Verita, Kieran reflected on the journey. They had traveled to stormy mountains, icy plains, and dense forests. They had faced danger at every turn, from natural hazards to the relentless pursuit of Commander Vex. But through every challenge, they had relied on each other. Their friendship and trust had been the key to surviving and understanding the crown. When the starship landed softly on the desert plains of Verita, a crowd had gathered. Word of the explorers' adventure had spread quickly. People cheered. But Kieran waved them to silence. He did not seek glory. Instead, he wanted to share the lessons they had learned. Mila stepped forward and raised her voice. We found the crown, but we did not take it. Its power is too great to be controlled by any one person. The crown tested us, and we passed by showing courage, loyalty, and wisdom. These are the qualities that matter most. Rowan nodded. The crown taught us that the future of the galaxy depends on the choices we make. Greed, fear, and selfish ambition cannot guide us. Only unity, honesty, and bravery can shape a better future. The crowd listened, captivated. Many had heard tales of explorers who sought the crown before, but none had returned. Kieran knew the crown's true purpose was now clear. It was a test of humanity, a way to remind people that strength comes from the heart and mind, not from objects or weapons. That evening, Kieran, Mila, and Rohan sat together on a small hill, watching the twin suns set over the desert. The sky was painted with colors they had never seen, as if the galaxy itself celebrated their success. "We have survived everything the crown sent at us," Kieran said softly. "But more importantly, we have learned what it means to be human. Courage, loyalty, and wisdom are what truly guide us." Mila smiled. "And now, we can share that knowledge. People will remember the crown not as a tool for power, but as a symbol of humanity's strength." Rohan added, "We cannot stop the challenges from coming, but we can face them with what we have learned. That is the real legacy of the crown." As night fell, the stars above Verita sparkled brightly. The team knew that the galaxy was vast, filled with unknown worlds and mysteries. Yet, they felt hope. Humanity had proven it could rise above greed and fear. They had faced impossible odds, and through courage, intelligence, and loyalty, they had succeeded. Kieran looked at his friends. "We may not have the crown with us, but its lessons are stronger than any power. We carry its wisdom in our hearts, and that is something no one can take away." Mila and Rohan nodded, feeling the truth in his words. The crown had tested them, and they had passed. They had protected its energy, respected its purpose, and understood its meaning. They were ready to share these lessons with their world and with anyone who would listen. The next day, the team began a journey to teach and inspire others. Schools, communities, and leaders listened as Kieran, Mila, and Rohan told their story. They spoke not of glory, but of courage, loyalty, and wisdom. People learned that true strength is measured by the choices we make, not by what we possess. The forgotten crown of blood had vanished, but its legacy lived on. Its story became a symbol of humanity's potential. It reminded the galaxy that, even in the face of danger and temptation, humans could rise above and make choices guided by heart and mind. Kieran, Mila, and Rohan looked to the stars, ready for the future. They had faced the crown, survived its trials, and returned wiser. Humanity's courage had triumphed, and the galaxy would remember that the greatest power is not in artifacts, but in the strength of human spirit. The story of the crown would inspire generations, and Kieran, Mila, and Rohan knew that the adventure had not ended. It had only begun. The galaxy was vast, challenges awaited, but humanity was ready, guided by the courage, loyalty, and wisdom that the forgotten crown of blood had revealed. The explorers stood together, hearts full of hope, as the twin suns rose again over Verita, signaling a new beginning for the galaxy and for humanity itself.